Hello, people on the internet. My name is Lindsay Bird. I'm your next reader in this reading series that's been really awesome. A big thank you to everyone at Poetry London for inviting me to take part. I've been watching the videos and they're really great. I'm here in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. I guess you're there on the internet, and I'm going to read you some poems. First from my collection, my first book, called Boom Time, that came out last spring with Gaspereau Press. It's all set in the work camps around Fort McMurray in northern Alberta during the big oil boom of the early 2000s. So this book is really set in like around 2007 because that was during my time there when I worked in the work camps at Fort McMurray. So there's a lot of semi-autobiographical stuff going on with the book as it follows a young woman through that experience working on the oil sand sites and in construction. So to start, I'm going to read a poem from the very beginning of the collection, and it's called Orientation, those first moments when you first get on an oil site. Orientation. 100-ton heavy haulers, their ridiculous wheels, the slack jaw of a 3-story pipe. This is where the last giants lived when the world decided to shrink to reasonable size, and you only find that out after the waivers, left to gawk at the ankles of everything. Smoke fumbles from stack edge to sky end in a 24-hour flutter. On the coldest days, it will separate into nonsense curlicues. This is where all the cursive went when they stopped teaching it in school. Skipping ahead a little bit, this next poem is kind of set in a tool crib, which is the place where you catalog and you inventory all the tools that construction workers are using, and they go to get out new tools and that sort of thing. Kind of like a little library for tools. It's called Tool Crib. Hacksaws, wire strippers, what the Brits call shifting spanners, socket wrenches, pipe wrenches, eye bolts, U-bolts, bolt cutters to undo. Torpedo levels and measuring tapes, knowing your angles by eye, the slant of the world, what 30 degrees looks like on a cloudy day, spent arguing about bevel. What was a pizza delivery boy last week is a certified QC inspector today, flicking his infrared thermometer in your face, its razzing red light taking your temperature, your short fuse pullers, pipes and pipes and pipes. The lead hands want to be foreman, and the foremen want to be general foreman, and at least one of them has his sights set on superintendent, Howie always boring the baloney right out of you with those long-winded safety lectures. High-vis vests, high-voltage gloves, the other ones with gritty tips, so the pipes stick to your fingers like metallic flypaper. Wobbly tattoos the welder inks in his camp room at night. The Pope's hands clasped around his biceps. A prayer for every different way to twist. A couple more. I'll read 2 more from this collection because they're pretty short. Most of the people that I worked with up there, it was a very migratory workforce, and a lot of the characters in the book are migratory workers, mostly from Newfoundland. And here in Newfoundland, eating seal meat is part of definitely the culture, and people have been eating it for a long time. And this is a little inspired by one gentleman who got me to taste seal meat for the first time and my impressions of it. Seal meat. Andy barges into the office, mason jar in big mitt, sketchy as all hell. That section of damnation devoted to bottled meat and its murky depths. His mustache barks less invite than order. Eat. Meat slips between his knuckles, a grease parade across his old electrical burn that plops into your soft palm, the black, homesick heart of it. You can't even chew the mess, and like the first time a boy lay on top of you, you're glad when it's over with. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of people who worked and still work up there from Newfoundland. It's a big part of the culture here. And this poem was written before I moved to Newfoundland, so it makes sense. And it's about a screechin, which is like a ceremony that you may have heard of, where people who come to Newfoundland are made honorary Newfoundlanders if they drink some really questionable rum and kiss a cod. It's called Newfoundland. Never been, but know most of its men. Kissed a few, a cod too, its frozen cheek flown in for a one-night rendezvous. Charmed by cheap rum, quick fiddles, this whole crew. Filling time with fish ceremonies, whatever gets them through. Back to their icy coasts, where I'm told it's a better, barren view. Of course I will dance with you and you and you. I'm just going to read a couple other poems. This one is part of the collection in Boom Time. And it actually takes place a little bit in the past as the narrator is kind of thinking about how awesome shopping is. Since up on those work camps, you didn't have any opportunity to go shopping, and just that idea of thinking about commercialism and stuff, which is interesting to think about right now in our time, because at this particular moment, in Newfoundland at least, our retail stores are closed and shopping isn't particularly a thing you do in that same old form. And this poem in particular is kind of an ode to, I guess, my favorite department store of the 1980s, Eaton's. It's called Eaton's, etc. Everything 1987 could produce had its own shelf there and was often on sale. Portrait studios, porcelain, perhaps even a detective agency on the top story. Toddlers towed past aisles of temptation, only to turn a corner where the wig shop waited like a shark attack. If lost, head to bedding and memorize all the shades of aquamarine. My mother's purse clasped and grim as we begged for cassettes, as the display stereos melted U2 into my brother's heart. Such was life before the decline of the empire, when haberdashery was a thing you could reach out and hold. I outlived it all. And these two other poems are not part of my collection that's set in Alberta, and are kind of a bunch of work about being a bystander when someone you love has terminal illness. And this poem is called The Waiting Room. When I revealed I thought very little of waffles, the breakfast food conversation got really serious. My main problem with waffles being it is impolite to eat more than 2 at a sitting. Pancakes nobody cares. She remained firmly on the waffle side of things, having no qualms with restraint before noon. Although that one time in Rome, while boarding a train, we saw a chic woman cuddling her pug, speaking in chic English with an Italian terroir, each word sensual as a pencil skirt. And she called her dog her little pancake, and neither of us ever forgot it. And just one last poem to end off with, in that same vein of things. It's called The End of the All-Inclusive Vacation. Again, one of those titles that now, in these strange times, you think of as totally different, since people aren't taking all-inclusive vacations anywhere, but let's divorce ourselves from that current reality. It's called The End of the All-Inclusive Vacation. It was silly when we booked it, on the pink lips of summer, when you had no problem walking down the uneven stones to the beach, all by yourself, muttering about how we badly needed new bikinis. We booked it before checking when the rainy season began, before finding a babysitter, before the nurse spent 15 quiet minutes trying to find a vein. Once you fell asleep, I went to the bathroom and turned on the faucet to disguise the travel agent's brisk business, her silly question. Will you use your credit in the next 12 months? Water dripping in the basin. Perhaps, perhaps, perhaps. That's it for me. Thank you so much for watching and listening to this, and thank you so much to Poetry London, and hope wherever you are in the world you're doing all right.